Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and welcome to issue number 3 of The Division Weekly. This is indeed the big, massive beta afterthoughts issue. Lots of beta discussion going to happen today. We're going to talk about concerns, content concerns, beta concerns, Dark Zone issues, Tom Clancy branding, post-launch DLC, PC performance. It's all on the list. We're going to go in just about the most nonsensical order ever. I've tried ordering the list usually to make it make sense in the way that we actually discuss the content. It's pretty close, but a lot of it's just going to be like, let's segue so this flows better in discussion, because you guys know I do everything in one take. Now, before we get into that big, juicy discussion, we need to do the fan art focus. And this week we've got some amazing fan art, one of just several pieces in a fan art project that aims to take the Division to Prague from Mr. Jacob Cervenka. I strongly recommend you guys click the full link down in the description below and check out all of the artwork, but the one that I've decided to feature is his take on Pilsen Cathedral. Now, in my opinion, Prague is one of the most beautiful and incredible cities in the world. I want to go there one day so badly. I spend way too much time looking at videos and footage of Prague because I really do believe it is that stunning. And Mr. Cervenka here has given us a rather beautiful, detailed and atmospheric but twisted version of the Pilsen Cathedral with his Division-inspired fan art here. It makes you very much wish that the Division was in Prague. Hey, maybe the Division 2, the Division 3 will be in Prague, Tokyo, two of my favorite cities. That'd be cool. It's interesting how a lot of the fan art has actually decided to take the Division and put us in different parts of the world. That's actually really cool. I feel like there's something special about that. But what I'd love for you guys to do is go check out the rest of the artwork. Again, hit that link down in the description below. Please share it, like it, spread the word. This stuff does not have nearly as much exposure as it deserves. And as it turns out, Mr. Cervenka here is a concept art and map painting student. I imagine his teachers either love him because they realize how talented he is, or they hate him because he's more talented and better at doing what he does than they are. Seriously, just a huge thumbs up. I love this Pilsen Cathedral concept art here. It's my wallpaper already. The atmosphere, the level of detail. We've got this foreground reflection going on here. Lots of moisture being captured in the air. You know, that real sense of this is the cold weather season, and just damn. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. But let's go ahead and dive into the deep, dark hole that is this week's discussion data. As I said, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. It's going to be all over the place, but let's kind of kick it off with a bit of a talk regarding the size of the beta. You know, a lot of people I think would say that it was more of a demo than an actual beta, and I have to say in some ways I agree. Now, I'm not talking about the size of the map that was available to us, the number of missions. You know, I think they had the one mission, several side missions. It was a good chunk of the map, and then we also saw the Dark Zone. I think it was good in capturing those components, and there's no doubt there's a lot of stuff that they've talked about in the Division, including raid-style content, more endgame-style stuff that wasn't even here in the beta, which I can understand a little bit more. You know, they want to keep bits and pieces of the story under wrap. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with was the level of restriction on the sort of core gameplay mechanics and elements. You know, one of the things they've highlighted with the Division over and over again are all the cool perks and abilities we're going to get as we move through our skill trees, talent trees, and perk trees. So much of that was locked out in the beta. So much. All we were able to gain access to was the first main skill in each tree, so in the medical wing, the tech wing, and the security wing, and then the second skill, which was the healing grenade, or the healing stim, in the medical wing. That was it. We didn't have access to anything else in the tech or security. All of the perks and talents that go on beyond that were also locked out. I'm not saying they had to give everything to us, but it would have been nice to see a little bit of diversity in the characters we were able to create while we were in the beta. It was very bare bones in that sense. Also, the biggest one for me, the biggest pet peeve I had with the entire thing was that we had no access to the crafting system. We were allowed to wander the entire city, picking up components for crafting. We were allowed to break down weapons for crafting. Hell, we even got blueprints from some of the side missions that we did, but we weren't allowed to craft anything. What gives? Why not? It's just a crafting system. There's nothing spectacularly special and secretive about it. I imagine the entire story wasn't going to be spoiled because of the crafting system. It's not like someone was going to walk over to the crafting table and be like, I solved the virus. I know the story to the Division. There was no reason to lock that out. It was odd. I don't agree with the decision, and I think it would have been nice to at least have that be available to us. So that's really where my concern comes from. It's not the scale of the map that was given to us, you know, the size of the area or the missions that were available. It really comes down to just not enough of the game's mechanics being demonstrated and revealed. I think it's time for developers, consumers, all of us to admit, especially when a big AAA studio like Red Storm and Massive and all the other devs working on this, you know, launch a beta, that it's not just about bug testing and helping them, you know, sort of polish the game before launch. It is very much an opportunity for them to do some free advertising. On top of the fact that they, you know, did this as a pre-order bonus. To me, that's really like, hey, you know, people are going to pre-order our game. They're going to put money down in some way or another so they can participate in our beta. Let's really show them what the Division is about. Now, there's no doubt they nailed the core aspects. We got to experience the Dark Zone. Awesome, right? It did a good understanding of letting people know the very basics of the Division. Like, it's a RPG first, and then a third-person cover-based shooter second. If you don't like either of those components, you're probably not going to like the full game. So in its most basic form, it does help people understand whether or not the Division is for them. But there are people who maybe are sitting on the fence who could have been persuaded had they just seen a little bit more of what the game had to offer mechanics-wise. And that's really where I'm talking about. I think once we admit that a beta is more than just a test, it is a bit of free advertising and a bit of demonstration of what your game is about, then developers will be able to craft betas that benefit them in both ways, not just technically and, you know, in terms of development, but also in terms of advertisement. So that's my thoughts on it. You know, it could have just given us a little bit more. I think at its core, like I said, it demonstrates the Division, but there could have been a bit more. Now, for me, I'm hooked on this game. I love what it has to offer at its core. I love a good cover-based third-person shooter. I played way too much of the beta. I think I ended up having like 15 hours or something like that. I played a lot of the beta. And in fact, next week, we're going to be doing sort of a beta character share. So if you guys want to go ahead and save any screen captures you have of your character at the main screen, go ahead and do that, because next week I'm going to be sharing my character. I'm going to ask you guys to share your characters. So go ahead and snap a picture if you can. It's right when you boot up the game. It'll show your character with all of their equipped weapons. It'll show their playtime, and it'll also show their level. Go ahead and capture that and get it ready for next week, because we're going to be doing something fun with that. But I've already talked in my Dark Zone video. I've already talked to my beta impressions. I like the Division. I'm hooked on what it has to offer. I just really wanted to see more, and I think the beta could have benefited from that. Now, you guys have been seeing some PC gameplay footage while I've been blabbering on up here. Let's talk a little bit about the PC version, PC performance, and of course the options that are available specifically to PC users. Now, the footage you guys are seeing is at 30 FPS. I managed to run the game almost max ultra at locked 30 FPS. That's what I had to do for me. Now, when I started to turn the game down to high and medium, I wasn't really able to get 60 FPS to stay locked. There was a lot of frame rate drops. The game definitely has some performance concerns. I think a lot of it comes down to the fact this game is actually seriously pushing some crazy tech when we talk about lighting, reflection, and shadow quality. You know, it may be hard to notice in a YouTube video, but it's up there. Like, it's amped up more than a lot of games have done in a very long time. It's a very beautiful looking game in that sense, if you can run it. So for me, I was like, let's just make it look as pretty as I can and then run it at the same frame rate locked that I have on the console. And you got a really stunning looking experience. It obviously looks way better than the footage you guys are going to see in a little bit on the Xbox One. As it should. It's a PC version. But there is some performance issues they need to iron out. Hopefully they get that stuff sorted before launch. I think the biggest thing really is going to be beta drivers and drivers being provided by NVIDIA and AMD. That's going to help kind of bring down some of those performance issues and make it run better on a larger number of a larger variety of rigs and setups. On top of that, though, on top of the PC performance itself, one of the things that I thought was really awesome was the level of customization they give PC users. You can fully modify your HUD, you can change like reticle thickness and opacity. There are a lot of small creature comfort options that PC users love, especially if you plan on running multi-screen, because the game supports that at launch. Multi-screen, you can move stuff wherever you want on your screen across all three or all however many of your screens you're running. that stuff's awesome. Like that's what you need to see in a PC game. And the level of graphical options, as I said, that can be toggled on and off and switched around is insane. It was the reason I was able to, I clicked it up to ultra, and then I like knocked back anisotropic filtering, I knocked back shadow quality and shadow density, and I was able to get a nice locked 30 FPS every single place I went, even in the dark zone, in fact. So yeah, but PC gaming, you kind of want 60 FPS. Let's hope they sort out some of those PC performance issues. But as a whole, the PC version is very much a PC version. It's not just some half-arsed, you know, let's develop this last minute alongside the console version. They did an outstanding job, and I think PC users are going to be genuinely impressed. Let's talk a little bit about, I guess, what I called content concerns here. This was one of the things that was definitely highlighted in my time with the beta. Now, I'm not, as I said, I'm not addressing the amount of actual missions or side missions that was available in the beta. We're talking about the sort of things in NPCs, enemy NPCs in particular, that you found while exploring the bits and pieces of the map that are available in the Division. You know, the piece of the world that they gave us to work with. Outside of the main mission and the side missions, there's a lot of areas of the map that are available in the beta that are just kind of empty. I think the biggest one for me is towards the higher level areas of the map, level 8 or 9, you only find like a few cleaners. There's not a lot of enemies to actually engage. And probably the most worrying thing that I found was this sewer system. So this is footage on the Xbox One. It's this giant sewer system that is completely empty. There's not a soul in it. I at least figured I would find the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but sadly they weren't there. I was quite hungry, low on health, and looking for some pizza. But no, seriously, it was empty. It was just nothing. I thought maybe I'd find like the cleaners down here, using this as sort of a way to transport across the city more rapidly while maintaining low exposure. But nothing at all. Now, I bring a lot of this down to the fact that the game is the beta. They didn't really populate the full world, and they've been very restrictive, as we can see with the inability to use the crafting system and so on and so forth. So I felt that just kind of carried over into every other facet of the beta. And there was a good reason that the sewer was actually empty. And in the full game, when I come back to the sewer, it'll be populated either during a side mission or even outside of a side mission. And I really hope that's the case, because if stuff like this exists in the full game, this is no bueno. You can't come to a sewer like this, which is so openly accessible to the player, and then not reward them for going there in the first place. Now, if I end up coming back here in the full game as a side mission, or, you know, even as a main mission, and there's an awesome large-scale firefight with the cleaners, and they've got dudes on patrol, and it's this huge, lengthy, in-depth firefight, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. If I come here in the full game in my own free will, and there ends up being an awesome firefight, and I engage, you know, an elite tier enemy, and I walk out of here with some fat loot, doubly awesome. But that's the kind of thing, one way or the other, that needs to happen with more areas of the map. Now, they have actually populated some areas of the beta with random encounters, right? So you have, they're not even missions, they're not even side missions, they're not the JTF encounters, they're just enemies out on patrol, rioters and cleaners doing their thing that happen to have some sort of a leader who is usually elite tier and also named. He's not just Alex, his name's like Dave or Jerry or something. I love using those two names. And going out and killing him, of course, drops what could possibly be a rare piece of loot. That's the kind of stuff we need to see. It just needs to happen more often in the world itself. We need to be rewarded for going into areas like this sewer. I talk about this all the time with open world games and how they need to reward exploration, not just with the location, but also often with a firefight, a piece of loot, some sort of an encounter that will be memorable for you and your fire team in this case. Yeah, so that's that. Like I said, the sewer, super cool location, really awesome to find it. Just disappointing nothing was in it. Let's hope that that's not the case when the full release goes live, because we will definitely have some issues then. Let's talk about the Dark Zone quickly. Now, I talked a lot about the Dark Zone, obviously, in the video that I did on Friday. It was a big, fat Dark Zone discussion. I love the Dark Zone. It's a wonderful, wonderful concept. I think it's one of the most enjoyable PvP-style experiences I've ever had. I think they nailed the idea of making it a hybrid PvP-PvE zone. It's fantastic. It's one of the most interesting components of the Division, in my opinion. The last thing I want to see is it be ruined post-launch by hackers and cheaters. There are reports in the beta right now of people teleporting, glitching, and doing a lot of messed up things in the game to ruin other people's experiences. all I can say, regardless of the reports, regardless of the pretty absurd claims by people who are saying that they understand entirely the issue. It's all about the network infrastructure. There was literally a guy who has a post who is claiming that he knows exactly the issue, and he says that the network infrastructure in the Division is garbage. It's all broken. It's all rubbish. This is why we have these problems. I'm going to leave that up to the actual game developers, since I'm not one, and I hope that it's just a bit of hacking and glitching and bug problems that are causing players to be able to do this, that they're able to sort out, that they're able to get rid of, and I hope they also take a very Bungie approach to laying down the ban hammer when it comes time. Because I want the Dark Zone to be something that lasts well after the game's launch. That is something I continuously can come back to. I want it to be a sort of persistent PvP area that I can revisit again and again and again to create great memories alone or with my friends or even with random people out in the world. If it's filled with hackers and cheaters all the time, it's going to die quickly, and that could very much lead to the death of the game as a whole. Not something anyone wants to see. So Ubisoft, massive, Redstorm, get on that, guys. Let's make it so. Let's get that taken care of. All right, so let's talk briefly. I just want to talk very briefly about the idea that The Division is branded as a Tom Clancy game. Now, I don't really particularly have any issue with this. If they want to branch out on what we should expect from games branded with the Tom Clancy name, okay, I get, that's fine. They own the license. They can technically do whatever the hell they want. But I think there is a slight bit of confusion going on for some people who have come to expect a certain experience, a certain set of gameplay mechanics and design decisions from a game with the Tom Clancy name on it. I mean, if you look at every single game that has Tom Clancy before the name, from this point on, they are more authentic, sort of tactical, I guess. I hate using that word. Short time to kill experiences. Rainbow Six, Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell. They follow a very authentic formula, one that is very much based in reality. Like, you would never boot up a Rainbow Six game and then have a red dot attachment that allows you to drain health from an enemy that you engage. The Division has that. So the Division isn't really a traditional Tom Clancy experience. And again, I'm okay with that, but that is providing a bit of confusion for a lot of people who are stumbling onto the Division thinking it's going to be another Tom Clancy style experience. They're expecting short time to kills. They're not expecting all of these RPG components and stats and statistics and weapon modifiers. They're confused by it. It has caused a bit of an issue. And in a lot of ways, I feel that the Watch Dogs made a better Tom Clancy game, at least if we want to talk about what a Tom Clancy game is, than The Division does. It's just, it's all a bit weird for a lot of people. And I think it's going to take some people some getting used to, and some people are just, like I said, they're confused by it. I've had people come to me and say, this wasn't the game I was expecting. Luckily, at this point, there's a lot of content being created by the community, people like me, other YouTubers, normal standard journalism is covering the game. It's very clear what the game is. It's an RPG. I've talked about this so many times over. Ubisoft has always made that very clear. But some people really, sort of get tunnel vision. They focus on Tom Clancy's The Division, and they expect a certain experience, an experience that The Division doesn't offer. It's something completely different. It is, as I said numerous times, an RPG before anything else. So that's my brief thoughts on that. I don't see them removing the Tom Clancy name. I don't see a reason to. It's just something people will get used to over time. No doubt a silly sort of oversight, though, from the marketing department. I don't know if it just has something to do with Redstorm being involved. Redstorm is helping develop The Division, and they are, of course, one of the original Tom Clancy developers. So I could see that maybe being something that had an issue with. It's all weird. That's my thoughts on it. Let's just move on, because that was already something I didn't really want to talk about, but I did feel that I did need to touch on. So last but not least, guys, let's talk post-launch DLC. Because this is something that Ubisoft has been awesome enough to actually talk about. It's not all sunshine and blue skies, though. There's some issues here, of course, involving the Season Pass. What else is new? But let's just kind of break down first. They've announced officially that there will be 3 expansions, paid DLC expansions, which will tie into the Season Pass. The first one is going to be called Underground. Lets a squad of 4 players explore new territory in a post-epidemic New York City underworld. Sounds awesome. Sewers, anybody? Lots of sewers, I imagine. In the second expansion called Survival, players will have to try to survive in a hostile environment that will challenge even the most hardcore Division players. So maybe some of those survival components that so many of us expected to see when the game was first showcased, finally making their way into the game with that expansion, who knows. The third and final expansion, which we do not have any details, is simply titled The Last Stand. Now, regarding the Season Pass, if you own the Season Pass, you're going to get an exclusive sawed-off shotgun. You're going to get a couple outfits and weapon skins. You're also going to get monthly perks in the form of exclusive content drops and events. Now, this is where I have an issue. I get the idea of a Season Pass as in its most basic form. The idea that you purchase a Season Pass and you save like $5 by buying all the DLC in advance. When you start making the Season Pass a sort of owner's club, much like Battlefield did with Premium, this is where you step over a line that no. Because basically what this means is that someone can buy the Season Pass, right? They're going to spend less money than someone who purchases all of the DLCs individually, and then they also are rewarded with exclusive content drops and events, while the person who bought the DLC individually because they wanted to wait and find out if it was worth their cash is rewarded with nothing other than having spent more money. Not really fair. The best thing I can say, guys, is don't buy into Season Passes. Buy the DLC individually and don't let them get what they want, essentially. In addition to that Season Pass content, the Division will receive free updates available to all players throughout the year. These updates will be built around new game modes featuring cooperative challenges that reward your squad's ability to successfully work together. Yes. This is the kind of thing we should be seeing. If you're even going to consider charging us for any sort of paid expansion, I don't care how large it is, there should be the implementation of free DLC. It's games as a service. We've talked about this with The Witcher 3. We've talked about this with Dying Light. I feel that Rainbow Six Siege is doing a good job of that. I think they're finally pulling their head out of their dirty butts and they're understanding this is the way it needs to work. Now, if they could just sort out the whole Season Pass issue, we'd be golden. We would be completely, utterly golden. Anyone who plays your game continuously, regardless of how much money they decide to spend on expansions, should be treated as a customer, a valued customer, which means they should also gain access to exclusive content drops and events because they play the game just as much as the guy who spent the $30, the $40 on the Season Pass. One day, they'll all understand, but I don't know if that day will come anytime soon. So outside of what may have seemed like a genuinely disappointing Division Weekly, I am obviously still very excited for the Division. We've addressed some of the concerns today, which is something that is necessary. It's definitely necessary. We're not trying to be negative here. We're just trying to look at some of the things that have us a little bit worried. You know, there's a lot of the game that to me just looks exceptionally promising. I just want to see it all come together. I'll be purchasing the game either way because it's just what I do. I'm a YouTuber. I cover video games. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the full game has to offer. A lot of you guys out there have the benefit of looking to people like me to get your sort of final thoughts and impressions before you go ahead and pull that trigger. I know a lot of you guys are already excited. It seems like this game has a huge following already, and I think that's a good thing. It's up to Ubisoft now to come through with that, to recognize that they've earned the trust of a large amount of gamers. You know, they're like a food truck. You pulled up, I'm at your window, now make sure you serve me something really tasty, and I will be sure to come again. If you guys have any thoughts or questions of your own, feel free to leave them down in the comments section below. This is it. This is the final push, guys. We've got 1 month and a few days until the launch of the Division. Let's hope everything comes to fruition. I'll see you in the next one. Let's leave it at that. I'll see you in the next one.